Ben Mckay is a 24-year-old stand-up comedian and dumb little baby boy. And you are listening to his podcast. Each episode, Ben uses Reddit to learn life lessons. Today, Ben talks about
flying. Like that little new intro. Happy to be back. This is the 4th episode. The first 3 I recorded a while ago, and I was actually away for a little bit. So you see, it changed things up a little bit. People were messaging me, going, add some more stuff in the background. Brought in my ducks. Brought in this nice little painting my girlfriend did. This license plate from the Northwest Territories. I was born in the Northwest Territories. We moved when I was 1, but I got this license plate, so that's something. A few more ducks. It's pretty good. Good little set, I think. Let me know if you hate any duck in particular. We'll take them away, but I like these ducks. These are my guys. Format's the same. Each of these episodes I take something in my life I want to improve, and then I go on Reddit, find some stories, try and learn. I picked flying because I've been gone for a few weeks. I took a bunch of flights in that time. I was in Chicago, and then I was in Ottawa, and then I was in Vancouver, and then I came back here. Kind of a weird trip, I know, but I was doing some shows and seeing some people, so it was very nice. But I took a lot of flights. I'm bad with flights. I get so immature in the airports. I don't know what I think everyone kind of is at their worst in the airport, but I was doing bad. Especially on the way back, on the way back from Vancouver at the end, the security guy took my whole bag apart. I had my whole bag packed in tight. Like I just brought a backpack for this whole trip, and then for 3 weeks, which was crazy. I really was stinky by the end, but I had my whole bag packed in so tight. I barely got this thing closed. And then the guy opened it. The guy pulled it aside, and he was like, "Is there a knife in here?" I was like, "No, there is not a knife in there." And he goes, "Oh, okay." And then he takes every single item out of my bag. He 100% unpacks. And I had the shirts all rolled up tight too. And then he just started letting them loose like they were whips, and he was taking them out. Guy was the worst. It was so annoying. And then I had to spend 25 minutes. I swear, it was like at least 15 minutes repacking my bag. And I was all grumpy. And I knew he was just a little bit over there. I was trying to be all passive aggressive. I wanted him to hear me. I kept going, and checking my watch. Even though I had lots of time, I kept checking my watch like he was going to make me late. I don't think he cared, though, to be honest. At least I made all my flights this time, though. I've missed lots of flights. A couple years ago, I was doing a show in Edmonton, and then I was flying back, and I got to the airport. It was one of those, like, the flight was, like, early the one morning, like 5 or 6 a.m. So I had to be there really early anyway. So I was like, I'm not going to pay for a hotel room. So I just stayed out and drank the whole night. So I was hammered. I got to the airport in the middle of the night. I'm hammered. I took a bus there, which is crazy. Edmonton bus to the airport in the middle of the night. But I can't believe they had that. But I got there, and I don't know, I was just sad. I was drunk and sad at this airport. So I was like, I'm just going to take a nap. And just sleep it off, and then the plane will come in a couple hours, and then I'll go. So I went to the gate beside the gate that I was flying out of, and I just laid down. I took a nap, and I thought I set a timer on my phone, but I guess I didn't, or I turned it off or something, because I woke up 4 hours later, well after the plane had left. And I went around to someone, like a security lady, and I was like, "What happened? My flight left without me." And she was like, "Oh, were you Ben Mckay? They were calling your name on the thing a bunch." I had headphones on while I was sleeping. I had a podcast going over your headphones, fell asleep, completely missed the flight, not even close. So then I had to get another flight. I had to pay. They didn't give me anything. It was Flair, so there was not even like a customer service person to talk to. And then I had to get in their plane and to get in a hotel for a day because the flight wasn't for another day. So, whatever. That one was bad, but I don't drink anymore, so doing better. I flew Flair a bunch, though. Flair stinks. It's the worst. It's so, like, it feels unprofessional. Like, it feels kind of like a bus or something when you're on it. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes when you walk by the cockpit, you're kind of expecting to look in and be like, the pilot's, like, blowing into a breathalyzer to start the plane or something. Regardless, I got lots of stories. We'll go through some stories. I got lots of little stories about flying. Some people have it worse than me for sure. They must. This first one is from a guy who was working at TSA. He listed a bunch of stories, but this is the best one. He goes, "My favorite was a woman wearing a lower cut shirt. She was leaned forward at my table, and I saw down her shirt, and she had something big, round, and metallic between her breasts. I tried for a minute to discreetly tell her to empty her pockets or anything else she had on herself, but she kept missing the object I wanted her to remove. Finally, I'm just like, 'Ma'am, you have something in the middle of your chest.' And it was a full-size restaurant-style salt shaker. She forgot it was there." Is that crazy? What? Why would she have that? She goes full Seinfeld. She goes, "Oh, this airplane food. So bad you have to smuggle in your own seasoning." "Is this pasta? I gotta get this old pasta TSA. That's so stupid. I don't think the story sounds fake to me. I'm not sure what it is. But it feels like a story that like the TSA guys that they tell their bosses about why they need to be pervs. I mean, if a story goes, "Oh, but remember the one time I looked at that lady's cans and there was something there. You know, that's important, right?" Boss is like, "What was there?" And he panics, doesn't have anything. He's like, so a salt shaker? I think, yeah, it was a salt shaker. Why would a lady bring a salt shaker between her boobs on a plane? That makes no sense. I love that. Oh, wait. Yeah, it probably was just like drugs, right? So you had a vial of powder discreetly taped to her chest, and you were like, "Nice salt, lady. Nice try. Can't get that salt through. Got the salt has to go through the machine. Have a nice day." It was salt, the hot lady. The lady with the tits. She told me it was just salt. Don't worry. That rocks. I love that lady. All right, here's the second one. Flying from Chicago to Beijing, I sit in my seat and this guy comes down the aisle, plops his kid down next to me, and walks off to business class. That's right, I was stuck entertaining a young kid for the next 14 hours. I did teach him to say poopy poop poop and give him some coffee with lots of sugar before landing. That rocks. I love that. That's so funny as a parent. Just go drop your kid and go drop your kid in the regular seats and then go up to first class. That's awesome. Also, that sucks. That's the worst for you, because now if that kid's bad, you're responsible. Everyone's gonna be looking out at you and be like, "Get your kid to shut up here." It's not even your kid. That's a long flight too. At least he didn't put the kid in first class. You know what I mean? Can you imagine if a guy dropped like, especially Beijing to Chicago? It's probably like a $10,000 first class ticket. So my kid doesn't deserve that. We can put him in the back with the poor people. I saw a TikTok once of these parents who were on a flight and they were worried that their kid was going to cry, but they had to bring the kid. So they brought little notes and little gifts. They had little candies and baskets for everyone sitting in the rows near them in case the baby cried, so they wouldn't be mad at them. Which I thought that was cute. I feel like that's setting a weird precedent for parents. Can you imagine if you also had a kid on that flight? And now you're not only the people who brought a kid, but you're the people who brought a kid and didn't bring snacks for everyone. That sucks. Okay, story number 3. What are your weirdest/funniest airport stories? I worked at an airport for 15 years. I was supervising the departure of a flight to Paris, but we had a mechanical problem. Engine change meant 24 hours of delay. It was a Sunday night, so we sent all the passengers to the airport Hilton. The following day, the aircraft was ready to go, and this lady asked to speak to a manager because she was unhappy about the delay. So I go to meet her and her husband and listen to her complaint. She claimed that her husband and her had spent the previous evening calculating the cost of grounding the aircraft, sending everyone off to the hotel with meals, and that it came out to cheaper than letting a half-full flight fly across the Atlantic. Combining both flights, Sundays and Mondays, would save the company loads of cash, she said. So I stayed calm and politely explained to her that the aircraft hit a couple of birds during takeoff and that the engine was severely damaged and that we needed 24 hours to change the engine, which is pretty standard. But here's where it gets weird. She pokes her husband in the ribs and starts to say, "Oh, honey, he's trying to make me believe that planes need engines to fly." The conversation lasted another 10 minutes, during which she insulted me for taking her for a dummy because everyone knows that planes don't fly with engines. She promised me that once back home in Paris, she was going to tell all her friends about this airline and get a lawyer. To this day, I imagine this French lady sitting in a Chanel suit, sitting at some snotty French diner, telling her snotty French friends about the crazy Canadian airline worker who tried to convince her planes flew with engines. That's awesome. That's so cool. Imagine being that wrong but that confident. I wish I was like that. What did she think they flew? How did she think? If it's not engines, what? How else? I don't know. I mean, I don't understand engines, to be honest. I don't really understand how planes fly, but I feel like we all know it's kind of engines. That being said, if like Bill Nye came out and was like, it's actually not engines, it's magnets from the ground that are pushing it up in the air, you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay. I might actually believe that, to be honest, but I don't know. But we know it's engines. This lady's dumb. French people suck. Hell yeah, Canadian airline. What if that was a big conspiracy? What if engines are not real? What if that lady knows something? You know? Probably not, but what if? What if the airlines, they just all, like, it actually costs $0 to fly. They can do it with just some solar panels on top of the plane. But if we tell them it's engines, we can charge $1 billion for gas. It sounds like this lady is probably just crazy, but I kind of hope that she's not. And she was like, how can we fuck with this person? How can we mess with this airline employee? And you go, I'm going to get the supervisor tomorrow. I'm going to tell him that I know that there's not even an engine in that plane. And I'm going to sue them for telling me there was an engine. That's pretty funny, if that's what it was. Maybe she was just acting crazy to try and get an extra meal voucher. You know, the customer's always right. You go, but is the customer right? Because there definitely is an engine. If this had ended with, so we gave her a bunch of meal vouchers to shut up, though, I would be like, all right, next time I go to the airport, I'm telling them, there's no damn engine in there. Buy me Subway. Buy me Burger King in the airport. All right, we're flying through these. Number 4. When I was like 13, I was flying out of JFK with my youth group, and we were stuck on the tarmac for probably 3 or 4 hours. None of us had eaten dinner beforehand because we were so rushed to get to the airport, but being the fat little badass I was, I'd broken the rules and bought a piece of pizza before running to catch up with the group. I was trying to wait to eat it until we started flying and the youth minister stopped paying attention to us because it was a really small plane. But the hours dragged on and I got really hungry, and finally busted out my slice and tried to eat it quietly. Naturally, the youth minister noticed me and made me pass it around to let every kid take a bite. I was too awkward to protest, but man, I wanted to smack him in the bald spot with a King James edition so bad. What? How is that the solution? You go, oh, you found yourself dinner because we didn't get you dinner? Everyone gets one bite. Imagine sharing one slice of pizza with 15 people. That's great. They should have did communion. They had communion portions of pizza. I don't know. Go ahead, pray for a miracle on this one. Maybe the youth minister goes, God, please turn this slice into 3 pizzas. We need to feed all these kids. Those turnarounds are tough, though. The delay on the tarmac, that's brutal. I had one, though, when I was like 14. I was flying to Thailand with my dad. We were going to visit his friend. And we flew 2 hours. We were 2 hours into like the 10-hour flight or whatever it was. And then they came on the announcements and they were like, we have run out of water. We didn't pack enough water into the water tank. So we are going to return to Toronto. So we flew 2 hours back. We did 4 hours of flying. And then they spent an hour getting the water onto the plane. And then we started the flight over. We didn't get off the plane or anything. It was the worst. I was 14 and even I was furious like an old man. I was like, can you believe it? Can you believe it? Air Canada is doing this to us? Air Canada's bad, dude. If you've ever flown Air Canada, Flair sucks, but at least it's cheap and, but Air Canada, there's no customer service people with Flair, which sucks. But there is with Air Canada, but then you go to the thing and they're not helpful at all. They've never been helpful. I had a flight that was canceled. I was going from Calgary back to Toronto earlier this year, and the flight got canceled, and then the next day they put me on another flight, but it connected through Fort McMurray, which is a different small town in Alberta. But I got on my flight to Fort McMurray, and then when I got off the flight there, they were like, oh, the flight from here to Toronto has been canceled, so you actually have to go back to Calgary. And then I left security I left security to go talk to the person because they were like, you're going to need to go talk to the connections people. And then they were like, yeah, you got to get back on that same plane. So then I had to go through security again, come back into that same plane, fly an hour and a bit back to Calgary, and then wait 5 more hours for another flight. Fucking why I oughta, you know what I mean? Okay, a few more. I was flying back home after visiting some friends for a few days. Those few days were completely packed with drunken debauchery, so I felt absolutely terrible the morning of my departure. The first leg of the flight was a short one. As soon as I sat down, I grabbed the barf bag. The entire flight, I was sweating bullets, hoping I could manage to choke back the vomit that I knew was just waiting. As we were entering the final approach, I felt that dreaded feeling start to build up in my mouth. I couldn't hold it back anymore and just emptied my stomach contents into the bag. The best part? Once I did start puking, the old lady started rubbing my back and telling me everything was going to be okay, and we were almost on the ground. The guy sitting across from the aisle overheard and started to encourage me as well. After we landed, he patted me on the back and said something along the lines of, "You got through it, man. Be proud of yourself." Greatest flight ever. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude. You stunk up that flight. You made that way worse for them, and then you made them feel bad for you. That's crazy. You made an old lady have pity on you, even though you kind of ruined her flight. I was on a flight with my mom to the Philippines about 3 years ago. We were on our way to a stop in Japan. The plane was to be fueled and cleaned for new passengers, even though my mom and I had to get back on later for our flight to Manila. As we were getting off the plane, my mom looks over at this couple who remained seated, and my mom, who was a nurse, said, "I think that lady's dead. I know a dead person when I see one." And you could hear all the flight attendants talking on the way over about how she looked sick, and they did indeed confirm later that she had passed away. It was a little sickening when I saw someone else sitting there in the seat that she had died in just hours earlier. Whoa. That's crazy that your mom knows who's dead. That's awesome. That's kind of a cool little power she's got. That's very weird. I now every time I get on a plane seat, I'm going to be like, how many people have died in this plane? Can ghosts haunt a plane? Or do you have to, like, you can haunt a house, but that house stays in one spot. If you die on a plane, do you haunt that plane throughout its routes? Or is it just if it's that route? Or is it just if it's where you are? How mobile are ghosts? Can ghosts travel? They can probably fly a little bit. But could a ghost fly across the ocean? If a ghost is in a plane, does it fly with it or does it just float through and stay in the same spot? A lot to think about here. You can't be wrong about that, though. If you're going to point out dead people, you better be right. You know what I mean? Imagine someone's just taking a nap and going, "Look at that corpse." They wake up, they're like, "I'm just taking a nap. I'm fine." You're waking up people being like, "Hey, you're dead, right?" I have a similar skill, dude. I can tell lots about people when I look at them. I can tell when they're alive, for sure. Like, that guy's alive, that guy's alive. I can tell when people pee in their pants a little bit. I got that skill. Yeah, sometimes you pee in your pants just a little bit, and you think no one notices. I can tell, dude. So, I can tell. Last one. I've flown quite a few times being in the military. I've never been seated next to a cute female. Matter of fact, I've never even sat next to a female. It's always been old or obese men. When I was flying to Europe, I was in line behind a ton of female teenagers going on a trip. There must have been at least 50 to 60 girls, and I figured I'd sit next to one. Nope, got stuck with 2 old men that were very chatty. Only time I've ever even sat next to a girl was when I was coming home from Colorado. I tried to be cute and told her about my flying experiences and only sitting next to old men. She smiled, then said, "I'm sorry to do this, but could you switch seats with my friend back there?" I switched with her and was sitting right next to 2 old men. You're such a loser. Imagine writing this thinking that you're in the right, being like, "Fucking Delta keeps cock blocking me, bro." You're such a weirdo. The planes aren't for meeting women. They're for getting places. Also, there were all these teenage girls and I can't even sit next to one. Thank God they didn't sit you next to one, dude. You're so creepy. Keep getting sat next to these chatty old men. I want to chat to underage girls. Like, oh. I bet that lady, I bet the one that was switched, I bet she didn't even have a friend on that flight. She just, airdropped like an SOS to any other female name and was like, I gotta get you to switch seats with this guy. He's a freak. This guy. That's so crazy. Imagine if you were you sat down next to a flight and being like, hey, look at you, you're a woman. I never get to sit next to women on planes. I'd jump out of that plane with a parachute. You're so weird. If you were the one who wrote this, I hope you think about it more. Also, for the love, I really hope you were also a teenager in that first part. That's so gross. Anyways, that was it. That was the flying episode. The ducks really helped. I can tell this is better with the ducks. This might have been a short one. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm saying that. I have no idea. This was fun, though. I like these stories. Like always, though, let me know if there's stuff you want me to talk about. Just comment on these, interact with them. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, please, and like it, please. Anyway, this was the best. Thank you. Goodbye.